Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless Knives coming at you today with a look at the Toor Knives Shifter T. Now this is a compact, hard-use fixed blade knife that's built from the ground up in the United States, and I mean everything is USA made. The steel, the handle materials, the sheath, and yes, even the bolts and little hardware bits are machined in-house by Toor. This is a tabletop first impressions review. We're going to cover how it looks, how it feels, why the finishes exist, the carry system, and the key material details you need to know before you consider one. And so before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Toor Knives who did provide this for review. If you like what you see here today, do me a favor, look in the description box below where you can find all of the relevant links for where you can find your own Shifter T or other fantastic Toor knives. So again, take a look in the description box below. Now a quick company note to start. Toor Knives is veteran founded and based in San Diego. They grew from a small shop in a vertically integrated manufacturer, and that vertical integration is important. Rather than buying hardware off the shelf, they machine their own fasteners and bolts, which gives them control over tolerances and quality that you simply don't see in most modern production lines. This also means better long-term part support. If something fails, they're making replacements themselves, not waiting on a supplier overseas. But before we dive deeper, here's a quick side-by-side of the two variants you can currently buy, the Shifter T and the Shifter S. The overall length, 6.4 inches, blade length, 2.75 inches, the handle length, 3.65 inches, the blade stock thickness, 0.156 inches for the Shifter T and 0.156 inches for the Shifter S. That's right around your 5/32 inch thick stock. Both of which coming in CPM M4 with a Rockwell hardness of 60 to 62 HRC. Blade finishes with the KG gun coat. Now in the Shifter series, you're going to see either your SOCOM black or your Phantom gray. The handle materials, 3D machined G10 in both cases, and both coming with a fantastic fold-over Kydex with leather inserts. And of course, as mentioned, made in the USA. Now the first thing you notice in hand is that the Shifter feels compact but confident. The G10 handle scales have 3D machining, not just a flat textured slab, but sculpted contours and machine work that gives real-world bite without being fully abrasive. It looks and feels premium. That said, one honest note, right up at the tang, where the handle meets the blade, the scales are a little bit blocky. It's not a deal breaker, but you do feel a hint of a corner there if you're holding in certain positions. For short tasks, it's hardly an issue, but during prolonged work, you could notice a small hot spot where the G10 hits your palm. Let's run through the in-hand positions so you can see how the ergonomics play out visually. The hammer grip sits in the palm very securely, good palm fill, no pressure points for general cutting and chopping motions. Saber grip, put your thumb on the spine and you get a nice purchase from the jimping. The spine is comfortable for controlled push cuts. Choked up precision grip, but you definitely get usable control. You can choke forward for detailed work. It puts the balance between the edge where you expect it for fine cuts. And the reverse ice pick grip. The pommel and scale edges aren't intrusive, so the knife doesn't bite into your hand in defensive holds. Overall, the handle is quite neutral. It adapts to whatever grip you want rather than forcing you into one style. The blade geometry is worth talking about in detail. The Shifter uses CPM M4, a high-performance powder metallurgy tool steel, heat-treated to around 60 to 62 HRC. That means exceptional edge retention and toughness. It will hold a working edge much longer than most stainless steels. The trade-offs are twofold. M4 is not stainless, so you have to manage corrosion. And it's harder to sharpen because of the high hardness. The grind here is what I'd call a relatively high saber grind. You don't have the full thinness behind the edge of a full flat grind, but you get a good compromise of slicing ability and structural strength. The top edge features an unsharpened swedge. It lightens the tip and refines that piercing geometry without leaving a secondary sharp bevel. Also note the spine is not a 90-degree square. It's rounded and smoothed. That means it's comfortable under the thumb for saber grip work, but not quite optimized for striking ferro rods or scraping tasks where a squared-off spine is desired. Finishing options are available in the KG Gun Coat, Toor's proprietary coating. They're offered here in colors like the SOCOM Black and the Phantom Gray. These finishes are not purely cosmetic. They reduce glare, help protect the CPM M4 from moisture, and give you some corrosion resistance on top of the base steel. Because M4 does rust more easily than stainless steels, this coating is an important functional layer. Now let's get into coatings and corrosion a bit more, because if you buy an M4 knife, you need to understand the care. Again, the KG Gun Coat adds a sacrificial layer that slows rusting and pitting. It also helps with low reflection in tactical situations. CPM M4 will develop surface oxidization if left wet or exposed to salts. It's tough and holds an edge, but it is not set it and forget it. For maintenance, you're going to want to wipe the blade dry after every use. Apply a light coat of protective oil for storage and avoid leaving it in salty air. For sharpening, a diamond stone or coarse abrasives to reprofile the edge might be needed because M4 is hard. But in my opinion, for touch-ups, something like a fine ceramic rod or a strop will be more than suitable to keep a nice keen edge, especially if you keep on top of it. For long-term, periodic oiling, drying, and occasional honing will keep this steel performing great for years. The KG Gun Coat helps, but it doesn't make high-carbon tool steels stainless. The sheath is a fold-over Kydex design molded tight with leather straps glued inside. That leather lining makes the draw dead silent, no rattle, no clatter, which is a deliberate design choice for stealth and a premium feel. You'll also notice that the liners match the interior lining of the Kydex Sheath, a thoughtful aesthetic tie that reinforces the idea that Toor considers the whole package, not just the blade. That leather insert is genius for quiet carry, but it does raise a couple of questions I'm curious about long-term. What if grit or sand gets trapped between the leather and the blade? Will it accelerate wear on the finish? And 2, will the glued leather tolerate years of friction and moisture? Both are solvable, and Toor's choice makes the experience very classy, but I'll reserve judgment until I run a long-term wear test. So what are the bottom line first impressions? Pros. Legitimate, vertically integrate USA manufacturing down to the bolts and heat treat. CPM M4 gives outstanding edge retention, an ergonomic neutral handle that supports multiple grips with the 3D machined G10 creates a premium feel. A quiet, well-fit Kydex sheath with leather for silent carry and an overall attractive finish on this package is not only purely functional, but it is beautifully aesthetic. The cons. M4 requires active corrosion control management. The coating helps, but you need to maintain it. The handles are slightly blocky at the tang, and it is noticeable in some hand positions. I will probably sand my edges down to keep this knife for long-term use. The leather in the sheath is silent, but could pose a long-term durability question if contamination gets in. And this is not optimized for ferro rod sparking because the spine isn't a sharp 90 degrees. But do you really need that 90-degree sharpened spine if you're using this for self-defense? Well, it's hard to say. Hopefully you're not defending yourself out in the middle of the wilderness. In short, the Toor Shifter gives a strong first impression. It's compact, confident, and built like a small tool that expects to be used. The American manufacturing story is real. It's reflected in the small hardware details, the heat treat, and the thought put into the sheath. If you want a small fixed blade with real edge honing capability and you're prepared to maintain a high carbon tool steel, this is absolutely worth a look. And so with that, thank you for looking at the Shifter T. Much more to come from Toor in the future. Thank you to Toor Knives, who did provide this for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor, check out the rest of my Outer Limitless family of channels. Thank you guys for following along. Take care now. I'll see you soon.